Alright, so back again working on the Powerbook 100, and in my last video you guys saw that I had replaced all the capacitors and finally got this thing to at least post, not necessarily boot up. In the time between the last video and this video, I've tried several different hard drives. I actually had a friend of mine, goes by the name Blue BMW, he sent me a couple of hard drives that were SCSI for this machine, and tried several, and I can't get any of them to boot or work in this. So what I did was, instead of trying to track down 20, 25, 30-year-old 2.5-inch SCSI hard drives, which are dropping like flies seemingly, there's a gentleman in Japan who sells a nice SCSI 2.5-inch to compact flash converter board. And this will just mount nice and neat inside of the Powerbook. Then I don't have to worry about hard drives failing or anything like that. So I got a 512 megabyte compact flash card, which this should be plenty for this old machine. So what I've decided to do is go ahead and open up the Powerbook and remove the old hard drive and plug in our new adapter with compact flash. Plug it in, make sure that the tools that I have will see this drive and get it formatted, and then I'll plug it in to the emulator and start loading up some applications. I've got a light version of System 7.0.1. I'll copy to it just to make sure it'll boot up, and we'll go from there. Alright, I got the old drive out. Of course, this isn't actually the original drive. Got the new drive in with the compact flash card. You gotta admit, that looks pretty good. I'm tempted to cut a little hole in the side of the laptop so I can easily pull the card out, but I just don't know if I can modify this original system. But nonetheless, let's get it put back together and check it out. Alright, got the system reassembled. Got the power plugged in. I should also mention that I've replaced the PRAM batteries in here too, which will help keep this thing running somewhat reliably. Now I should mention there was one minor setback. As you may be able to tell on the screen, there's a little blotch right there where it's starting to delaminate. The screen that I had on here before was actually starting to ghost really bad, and it got to the point where you couldn't even see anything. So I tried pulling the screen apart and troubleshooting, and there was actually some capacitors on the screen that I replaced, and it didn't seem to do me any good, so I had to rely on this backup screen, which is not perfect by any stretch, but it works for now, and I'll find a replacement screen eventually when I see another dead Powerbook hit eBay or forums or wherever that may be. So let's turn it on, and hopefully this disk will boot up. It should boot up to System 7.0.1, and I've got a couple of hard drive utilities on here, so we'll let this thing get started and we'll see if we can format this new compact flash drive. Alright, so I've got the system files copied to my RAM disk, which I just created, which is kind of nice. This machine has so much memory that I can just copy the OS to a chunk of it. So now what I'll do is pop in my Disk Tools disk. Let's see if we can access the SCSI drive. Well, fast forward a couple hours. Several hours actually. I ran into some serious problems trying to get the drive recognized, or any drive recognized, and spent many hours trying to troubleshoot very generic bus errors and address errors whenever you try to access the hard drive using multiple tools, and kind of reached the end of my rope, and in frustration and just on a hunch, I had a spare hard drive ribbon cable, and I replaced the ribbon cable, and lo and behold, that fixed it. So after I replaced the ribbon cable, I was able to recognize the hard drive and get it formatted, get the OS copied over to it, and now I've got a functioning Powerbook 100 with a, well, it sees about a little short of 500 megabyte compact flash hard drive. So I do have a couple of problems though. Obviously the screen, as mentioned before, has got that blemish. So I'm going to have to wait until I can find a replacement part for that. And also, when I initially boot it up, sometimes after unplugging it, I'll have to reset it for it to recognize the hard drive. So I'll demonstrate that here. We'll get it turned on. Hopefully you can see the screen. This laptop has been, it's been fun to restore, especially since there's not many of these that are actually working. But it's definitely been a challenge. So I'm probably going to get the blinking floppy disk here. Let me close some of these blinds. Yeah, in fact, I'm just going to go ahead and reset. Let it boot up. Yeah, there we go. So this has got the original OS that came with the system 7.0.1, and runs pretty quickly, especially since it's got 8 megabytes of RAM. I've already copied some applications over, but I'll just kind of give you a little demonstration of the operating system. Alright, so we'll just kind of look around and I'll show you what I've got loaded on here, and also you can get a feel for the performance of this machine, what performance there is being a 16 megahertz 68,000 processor. One thing that's kind of unusual and takes a little while to get used to is the fact that it is completely silent. But I'll show you the tool that I use to format the drive. And it's scanning the SCSI bus. Of course, this one's going to be on 0. And there you see it there, 486 megabyte hard disk drive. So we'll exit out of that, and I'll show you where it will tell me who makes it, which I think is on a different tool. Yep, you see it right there, model number Transcend. So we know we're running off of that compact flash card, revision 2008, which is kind of funny. So we'll quit that. Now I've loaded just a couple of small control panels and extensions on here, but I did load After Dark, which is almost a requirement for an old Macintosh. A lot of fun to play around with some of these old screensavers, and of course you got the flying toasters that you can run, and all sorts of After Dark modules. But yeah, looks like other than the screen replacement, I think this restoration is done, and it was successful. So it's definitely cool to have a working Powerbook 100, something that is seems to be somewhat scarce these days, or hard to find. But hopefully this video can be used as a resource for those who might have one of these sitting in the closet, or these Macintosh collectors that may have one on the shelf and it's been dead and they just kind of have it around for just as a collector's item, but wish that it would work. Maybe this will give you some place to start, and give you somewhere to look and get yours running again. So as always, guys, I appreciate you watching, and hope this was of some help, and see you next time.